Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program 2, where I did restart the game. We still have this thing here where we are 41 kilometers from the target. Relative speed is rather high. I think this is probably because we are retrograde. So let's actually run a quick test of that. We should be able to simply flip our orbit. I don't want to actually do this, but I just want to flip this orbit around and bring it over here. So you can see at this point, we would be out this way, right? So we can just dial that in about like that. I mean, that's a lot better relative speed. No doubt about that. And then we can just toss in a little bit of this. It's going back up now? Okay. So that's about the best we get there. What direction would we want to end up going? A little bit this way. Looks much better. Okay. So that puts us in decently. So this is actually much better in terms of the relative speed, right? The relative speed was like 3 kilometers previously. 3 kilometers per second. So I would definitely prefer 257 meters per second than 3 kilometers per second. No doubt about that. Let's just see about dialing this in a little closer. That is 16 kilometers, and yet still no encounter, apparently. I highly doubt that. To be clear, I extremely highly doubt that. I don't want to be at about 16 kilometers. Let's see about maybe like 50. There, about there. So this is the burn that we're going to do then. That seems reasonably fine. We are going to flip our directionality. It's not that expensive. It'd be a lot cheaper if our orbit was much bigger, but this is not that expensive to do, and I think it's absolutely fine. Let's warp on forward. We're going to go all the way around here, and then we're going to flip around our orbit. And we're going to commence this burn. It's going to be about a 4-minute burn here. We're still about 3.5 hours away. So let's warp in a little bit closer. 3 minutes away. Little further. 2 minutes. 1 minute. And 40 seconds. 30. 20. 10. And 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Okay, so this is going to be a 4-minute burn. We have to flip our directionality because we came in retrograde. So this isn't that much more DV, to be honest. We've got plenty. So this seems absolutely fine. We're going to still be able to utilize our interplanetary transfer stage on the planetary maneuvering, which sounds fantastic. I'm very, very glad to see that. But this is going to be currently 344 kilometers. Okay, that changed after the warp. That's okay. We'll just dial this in, and I do want to warp through this burn a little bit because we're going to have to do a fair amount of burn here. No doubt about it. Flipping it around. Going back down to 1x, and this should be pretty close to correct. Okay. So at this point, we can see that we are... I want to close this. Huh. Well, this has changed a lot. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to encapsulate this, and we're going to replot this. So we're just going to bring our orbit up to somewhere around here or so. I don't want to burn too much fuel here, so I'm going to stop our burn right about, actually a little further, 2, 1, now. Okay, then at this periapsis, I'm going to bring this guy back in. Now we see that actually we are a little off on our inclination. We can make a small inclination change before we circularize that. That'll be fine. So it would appear that our node was lying to us. That's okay. We still needed to flip our orbit anyway. So this is okay. So this is 6 dV to get aligned there. That sounds good. Let's get turned on over to the inclination change. And of course, we're turning faster and faster all the time. as we burn off more and more fuel. We don't have all that much fuel left here, but there's still about 1,200 meters per second in it, so that's looking decent. There's only 6 meters per second for our inclination change, and then we're going to bring down our apoapsis and circularize, and then we're going to look for our rendezvous. Since the maneuver node lied to us. That's okay, it's just not, you know, the greatest thing in the world. Okay, so we're going to do this burn in about 55 days. Looks solid. Just lining on up here. There we go, that's pretty aligned. And let's position here. Little further. There we go, about 2 minutes. And we can warp forward just a smidge here. So we're much closer to Jool at this point. No doubt about that. 1 minute away from this burn, 50 seconds, 40, 30, 20, 10 seconds away. Okay. So that all sounds absolutely fine. This is going to be a very, very brief burn indeed. In fact, I'm going to burn it now, but not at full thrust. Okay, so something about like that. I overshot it ever so slightly, but that is 0.0. Looks good. So we're going to create a maneuver plan, not at the, well, actually, yeah, at the Jool periapsis. And we're just going to circularize this. This is still the apoapsis? Okay, we are looking to encapsulate this orbit, so we don't actually need to circularize. We just want to have it be something kind of like this, where it's approximately even the distance between the orbit on both sides. So that's 168 meters per second. Not too bad. We'll still have a kilometer per second for our Hohmann transfer and maneuvers within the pole system. That looks good. And that doesn't count our delta V that's in here, of course, which is, I think, not correctly counted at this moment. I think it's higher than this, but I don't know by how much. I think we might have some problems with our delta V on the way back. We'll see how it goes. But for now, all we need to do is land on pole. We don't care where, and we can simply land on pole, and we can plant a flag. I'm assuming we don't need any special equipment to plant a flag. Although I don't recall seeing plant a flag on there previously. Well, we'll find out. So we're going to warp on forward as of now. We've got about 3 days on this burn, so that's looking good. Now about 1 day. Cool. Now about 3 minutes. So let's warp forward a little further than this. 2 minutes. 1 minute. And 30 seconds. 20. 10 seconds. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. So this will be about a 28-second burn. Looks reasonable. We'll verify that this is actually doing what we want it to. And of course it is. So we're just making this orbit less elliptical at this point. And then we're going to look to intercept. It looks like we're, if we really wanted to encapsulate this, we need to toss in a little bit of radial, but I don't care about that. This is good enough. So we're just bringing this down a little bit in terms of orbital velocity, and that looks fine. We're going to need to do our Hohmann transfer next, of course, but we're not that big encapsulated here, so we might have to do an orbit or two in order to actually get lined up. We'll see how that goes. We've got about 5 seconds left on this burn. 3, 2, 1, mark. Okay, that'll do. That is close enough. So at this point, the question is, if we were to do a rendezvous burn, that is not what I wanted. Nope, get out of here. If we were going to do a rendezvous burn sometime around here, what would that look like? That's actually reasonably close, but we're going to want to delay this. So we want to move it out over here-ish. About there or so. A little bit more retrograde on it. We need to delay it, I think, a little bit longer. That's a rendezvous. Okay, beautiful. So now we want to go into pole and see what orbit we got. This is barely dipping in. Sure. Where's our maneuver node? There it is. So we can dial this in a little bit. That is interesting. It's going the wrong way. Noted. Ooh, hang on. What is that even doing? I am not sure what I was grabbing there. I guess it was retrograde. Okay. Well, that's exciting for sure. So that's a rendezvous. I would like to bring it in a little closer. There we go. That's pretty solid. So we want this to be a periapsis at around 50 kilometers would be ideal. So a little bit of radial does the trick. Actually, you know what? 20 kilometers sounds good. So let's put it in right about there. 61 DV is not bad. That's going to be in 26 days, which is also in the category of not bad. So as far as the rendezvous burn goes, that looks nice. What was our relative velocity going to be? Well, we don't actually see here. Our relative speed here would be 450 meters per second, and I'm assuming that that would be fairly similar-ish. So that's not too bad as far as a capture DV goes. Yeah, I like this. This is pretty solid. Even with being lied to in the first maneuver node. Hopefully this one's not lying to us. We'll find out. So we're just going to position over this way. We're definitely turning a lot faster, and we're going to turn even faster once we get rid of our interplanetary transfer stage, which I am definitely planning to do. At this point, with the amount of fuel we have left, I'm glad we didn't do the docking idea. The currently remaining amount of fuel is not really sufficient to warrant that. So this is fine. We're going to warp on forward here. Wonderful. We've got about 10 days left. Okay, about 20 minutes. Okay, that's a weird amount of time to have left, but sure. We've now got about 30 seconds. 20, 10, and 3, 2, 1, mark. Okay, so we want to hit this burn fairly accurately here. Okay, I'm cutting the throttle slightly early here, and I'm going to just slowly bring this in. That looks reasonably good. Let's take a look at what we've got. We can probably bring it in a little further on this exact attitude. Yes, indeed we can. 15 kilometers, that'll do. Okay, so that seems fine to me. Well, really it's 16 kilometers, but who's counting? So we would be looking to go to our encounter here. So let's just warp up over here for now, and that'll be a little bit closer and easier to see what we've got going on with all these orbits. Okay, so looks like we're going to be wanting not this orbit, but no, not that one. No, I want this orbit. Okay, let's warp in here. Excellent. And we're just going to look to do a circularization burn here. We've got 966 meters per second, which should, in theory, be plenty. So we're just going to warp right on in and enter the sphere of influence of pull. We need to go a little further here. Okay. There we go. We are now in the sphere of influence of pull. Kind of? Okay, it's not sure where we are. Let's warp forward a little bit here, and now we're in the sphere of influence of pull. The game was very confused for a moment there, but I want to... Why is it turning so slowly now? Okay, that's exciting. Well, it doesn't matter because we just need to come to the periapsis here and do a retrograde burn, and we're looking to circularize this up. Let's focus on the lander node. Okay, I'm going to close and reopen the map. There, now it's normal. I have no idea what happened there. But now we can turn normally. Okay, cool. So we're just going to bring this on down and circularize this. 64 DV. Okay, we have so much DV here. We can land on this. And we might want to, actually. Yeah, gravity here is incredibly, incredibly low. That's a very convenient thing for us, of course. But let's get this guy turned, and we're just going to position for this. We definitely have the turn rate, I think, to be able to land on this rocket. The real question is, do we have the stability level to do it? Can we hold it upright? Well, given how low Pol's gravity is, I'm guessing the answer to that to be yes, but electric charge might be a problem. We definitely want to land on the daylight side, and ideally in as flat of terrain as possible, but that could definitely be an issue. I'm assuming that this engine has positive thrust to weight over pull. I think that's very likely. But we do have like 960 meters per second in this, which is almost certainly enough to land on. It's not almost certainly. It's definitely enough to land on. So we're going to warp forward here. Well, hello, Paul. And we're now about 3 minutes away from this. The surface does look a little bit on the rough side, but we'll have to wait until we get a little closer to know for sure. We can warp forward a little further here. We've got about a minute and a half until this circularization burn. Now about a minute. 40 seconds. 30 seconds. 20. And 10. And 4. 3. 2. 1. Mark. So this is about a 10-second burn here. Not too bad at all. And we're just letting it come on in. Nice. Yep, that is looking very good there. I'm just going to cut the throttle here. This is good enough. We don't need any additional. So, from here, we are in this orbit. And we could definitely just go to surface retrograde here and just kill our horizontal velocity and just go down. Is that something we want to do? Well, is there an area that looks a little more inviting? Maybe like up over here, up over here? I don't know. This looks very rough where we're at right now. Let's just warp forward a little bit and see if we can find somewhere that looks a little bit less rough. This all looks very rough here. I don't want to land on the dark side. I don't want to land over here. So I think we're going to warp all the way around at this point. We're at maximum warp right now. Let's bring this around. I'm just keeping an eye on the land underneath us. This all looks kind of uniformly rough. I wouldn't have a problem with it if we were landing on our lander here, but landing on this guy, it's going to be exciting. We're obviously not planning to land on that, but okay. Let's think about like after this mountain range. So let's come out of here and let's bring this to surface retrograde. We'll just align to that. And yeah, let's think about landing somewhere up over here-ish or even up over here. It kind of doesn't matter as long as we don't land on these mountains. So that'll be fine. We should probably be running some experiments as long as we're here. Cool. Okay, I'm just letting us align for the moment. And 110 meters per second is our surface velocity. That's not too bad. Yeah, that's really, really not too bad. Okay, I'm going to warp us forward just a smidgen here. We're looking straight down right now, so we should be well past it. Let's fire up our engines and start going down. We're now in ground mode. I'm keeping an eye on our thrust to weight here. It's not fantastic, but it's probably good enough. Okay, so we've got about 40 meters per second left to burn here. I'm just going to hold this position because that's going to be changing a lot. 10 meters per second. Okay. That's probably good enough. So let's bring this on over. So we've got 2.1 meters per second of speed. We're going to be falling for a while here. And I want to check our trajectory. Yeah, that looks about right. That definitely looks about right. Cool. Now the question is, do we think that we can do this? If we land and turn off our SAS, are we going to stay upright? That's a very important question to ask. Very, very important indeed. Now, the sun is up that way. It's nearly straight above us, so that's looking solid. I'm noting our gravity speed increase. We obviously have good enough thrust to weight to land, but the question is, how are we going to have our burn timing be, right? I'm thinking for now we should warp forward a ways. So we'll go to like 10x, and we'll let this go to, I don't know, maybe like 50 meters per second? Something like that. We're at about 35 right now. 40. 45. And coming out of the warp, we're at 49 right now. And I'm keeping an eye on our ground altitude. It seems reasonably fine. I'm going to commence a braking burn here. All of this fuel that is in this tank is possibly forfeit. So I don't mind burning a little bit inefficiently here. That was more about feeling out how quickly we could get rid of 50 meters per second, though, and the answer is pretty quickly. Okay, so we're currently limited to 4x time warp. That is absolutely acceptable. So downward we go, 30 meters per second. 35. Keeping an eye on that ground altitude. 40. 45. Okay, bringing this down to 1x. And 49.8, 9, 50. I'm letting this continue to go up. I'm going to start our braking burn at about 2 kilometers is where we're going to start. Okay. That might be a little too high, but we'll see. That's about where it felt like we could be at. So we're at 3 kilometers right now. We need to fall another kilometer. 2.9. 2.8. All is looking good. Our surface velocity isn't that high. 2.6. 2.5, 2.4, 2.3, well, now 2.3, 2.2, 2.1, and commencing braking burn. Okay. So we're down to about 30 kilometers. Our current target speed is about 10. There we go. So we're going to bring this down to 10 kilometers again. That was definitely a little too high, but that's fine. I'm not too concerned about it. What I'm a little more concerned about is the fact that we're coming down right on this, like, almost fault line. That's mildly concerning. We'll see what that looks like. If we need to, we'll change it. We'll change our positioning. In fact, we may want to go out this way a little bit. What direction is that way? I guessed correctly. Okay, cool. Let's position ourselves out over here, get a little bit of horizontal speed. About like that, bringing us down to about 10 meters per second again. And then I'm going to bring us back. Cool. So now we're going out this way a little bit, and we can see that our drop point is now looking to be out over here. At least until we kill that velocity. Okay. That looks a little bit better. We're at 15 meters per second. Our current target speed would be about 10-ish meters per second, but I'm going to let this go up to, I think, like 20, I'm thinking. I don't know. We should probably commence a slow burn right now. So a slow brake. Current target speed should be about 9 meters per second. Maybe a little lower than that. So let's bring this down a little bit to about 8 meters per second. This is a very, very slow deceleration at 7%. Okay. I'm going to cut the throttle, and we're going to drift for a little bit here. I have no idea how flat this terrain is going to be. That'll be interesting for sure. Moving at about 10 meters per second, I'm going to let it go to 12, and then we'll start a slow deceleration. So 6% thrust here. We're still 600 meters up, so we've got a fair amount of cushion here. And we're moving at 11.5, 11.4, slowing down a little bit too slow, I think. We can see that rocks have started to populate it. So I'm going to boost our throttle here to 11%. Yeah, we're going to let this velocity drop a bit. I want to be targeting not quite this low, so I'm dropping it back down to about 5% thrust. Speed is holding here. It's actually still very slowly decelerating at 5% thrust. Okay, that looks solid. 7.9 meters per second. Yeah, this looks okay. 300 meters up. 280. Once we're about 100 meters up, I'm going to want to decelerate a little bit more. But this is looking okay for the time being. Definitely looking decent. The question is, can we even maintain attitude like this? I have no idea if we can. We probably can. Probably. Okay, I'm slowing us down a little more. We're about 100 meters up right now. So we're bringing this down to about 5 meters per second, 4 meters per second. Okay, bringing it back down. We're currently at 3 meters per second. Oh, we're going up. Okay, yeah, let's bring this down a bit. We can see our shadow here. Okay, we're about 1 meter per second. I'm putting us into up. We're at 0.1 meters per second, but we're actually a little bit too high right now. We're kind of hover slamming, and so I'm just holding this position here. We are accelerating very slightly, but that's fine. This seems relatively flat right here, so I think we're in a decent spot, but we're a little too high off the ground right now. So we're just letting ourselves accelerate towards the ground very, very minutely. And we're just going to let this touch down like this. Okay. I'm watching our attitude. Letting us settle. For the moment, this seems fine. But I think if we turned SAS off... Actually, what happens if we freeze the physics like this? That works. Noted. Okay, well, it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we're going to do our science here on pull, and we're going to take off still on this fuel. This is actually really good that we're able to maintain this fuel. But we're going to have to hold this attitude, and that is fine. There shouldn't be a problem with that. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Atala, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12 UK, Kintogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.